Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnaya Paramatmane Namaha. Srimad Bhagavat Gita, Chapter 1, Arjuna Vishaadha Yogam. Arjuna's despair. The summary of the chapter. The story begins with the battle lines drawn between armies of warring cousins, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Arjuna is one of the 5 sons of Pandu, the Pandavas and the good guys in the story. They are upholding dharma, what is right in the way of ruling a kingdom, while their cousins are using deceit and other forms of treachery to maintain power. The Pandavas have done everything possible to negotiate fairly, but the evil cousin Duryodhana still continued to hold the throne illegally. It rightfully belonged to the Pandavas. To uphold dharma, war was necessary. But Arjuna, upon facing the reality of killing his cousins and family friends, throws up his hands in despair. He has Krishna drive his chariot out into the middle of the field between the 2 armies, and he laments to Krishna that he cannot go through with this. Arjuna represents all seekers. Even Arjuna, raised as a prince, educated, renowned and accomplished, is subject to sorrow and confusion. Now, Srimad Bhagavat Gita, Chapter 1, Arjuna Vishaadha Yoga. Dhritarashtra said, Sanjaya, gathered on the sacred soil of Kurukshetra, eager to fight, what did my sons and the sons of Pandu do? Sanjaya said, at that time, seeing the army of the Pandavas drawn up for the battle and approaching Dronacharya, King Duryodhana spoke the following words. Behold, Master, the mighty army of the sons of Pandu, arrayed for battle by your talented pupil, Drishtadhyumna, son of Drupata. There are in this army heroes wielding mighty bows and equal in military prowess to Bhima and Arjuna, Satyaki and Virata, and the Maharathi Drupada, Drishtakethu, Sekithana and valiant king of Kashi, and Purujit, Kunthiboja and Saibhya, the best of men, and mighty Yudhamanyu, and valiant Uttamauja Abhimanyu, the son of Subhadra, and the 5 sons of Draupadi, all of them Maharathis. O best of Brahmanas, know them also who are the principal warriors on our side, the generals of my army. For your information, I shall mention them. Yourself and Bhishma and Karna and Kripa, who is ever victorious in battle, and even so Ashwathama, Vikarna and Bhurishravas, son of Somadatta. And there are many other heroes equipped with various weapons and missiles, who have staked their lives for me, all skilled in warfare. This army of ours, fully protected by Bhishma, is unconquerable, while that army of theirs, guarded in every way by Bhima, looks to be easy to conquer. Therefore, stationed in your respective positions on all fronts, do you all guard Bhishma in particular on all sides. The grand old man of the Kaurava race, their glorious grand uncle Bhishma, cheering up Duryodhana, roared terribly like a lion and blew his conch. Then conches, kettle drums, tabors, drums and trumpets suddenly blared forth, and the noise was tumultuous. Then, seated in a glorious chariot drawn by white horses, Sri Krishna as well as Arjuna blew their celestial conches. Sri Krishna blew his conch named Panchajanya, Arjuna Devadatta, while Bhima of terrible deeds blew his great conch Poundra. King Yudhishthira, son of Kunti, blew his conch Ananta Vijaya, while Nakula and Sahadeva blew theirs known as Sughosha and Manipushpaka respectively. And the excellent archer, the king of Kashi, and Sikandi, the Maharati, Drishtadhyumna and Viratha, and invincible Satyaki, Drupada, as well as the 5 sons of Draupadi, and the mighty armed Abhimanyu, son of Subhadra, all of them, O Lord of the earth, severally blew their respective conches from all sides. And the terrible sound, echoing through heaven and earth, rent the hearts of Dhritarashtra's army. Now, O Lord of the earth, seeing your sons arrayed against him, and when missiles were ready to be hurled, Arjuna, who had the figure of Hanuman on the flag of his chariot, took up his bow and then addressed the following words to Sri Krishna. Krishna, place my chariot between the 2 armies and keep it there till I have carefully observed these warriors drawn up for the battle, and I have seen with whom I have to engage in this fight. I shall scan the well-wishers in this war of evil-minded Duryodhana, whoever have assembled on his side and are ready for the fight. Sanjaya said, O king, thus addressed by Arjuna, Sri Krishna placed magnificent chariot between the 2 armies in front of Bhishma, Drona and all the kings, and said, Arjuna, behold these Kauravas assembled here. Now Arjuna saw stationed there in both the armies his uncles, granduncles, and teachers, even great-granduncles, maternal uncles, brothers, and cousins, sons, and nephews, and grandnephews, even so friends, father-in-law, and well-wishers as well. Seeing all the relations present there, Arjuna was overcome with deep compassion and spoke thus in sorrow. Arjuna said, Krishna, as I see these kinsmen arrayed for battle, my limbs give way, and my mouth is getting parched. Nay, a shiver runs through my body, and hairs stand on end. The bow Gandiva slips from my hand, and my skin too burns all over. My mind is whirling, as it were, and I can no longer hold myself steady. And Kesava, I see such omens of evil, nor do I see any good in killing my kinsmen in battle. Krishna, I do not covet victory, nor kingdom, nor pleasures. Govinda, of what use will kingdom or luxuries or even life be to us? Those very persons for whose sake we covet the kingdom, luxuries and pleasures, teachers, uncles, sons, and nephews, and even so granduncles and great granduncles, maternal uncles, father in law, grandnephews, brothers in law, and other relations are here arrayed on the battlefield, staking their lives and wealth. O slayer of Madhu, I do not want to kill them, even though they slay me, even for the sovereignty over the three worlds, much less for the kingdom here on the earth. Krishna, how can we hope to be happy slaying the sons of Dhritarashtra? By killing even these desperados, sin will only surely accrue to us. Therefore, Krishna, it does not behove us to kill our relations, the sons of Dhritarashtra. For how can we be happy after killing our own kinsmen? Even if these people, with their mind blinded by greed, perceive no evil in destroying their own race and no sin in treason to friends, why should not we, O Krishna, who see clearly the sin accruing from the destruction of one's family, think of desisting from committing this foul deed? Age-long family traditions disappear with the destruction of a family, and virtue having been lost, vice takes hold of the entire race. With the preponderance of the vice, Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt. And the corruption of women, O descendant of Vrishni, there ensues an intermixture of castes. Promiscuity damns the destroyers of the race as well as the race itself. Deprived of the offerings of rice and water during Shraddha and Tarpana, etc., the manes of their race also fall. Through these evils, bringing about an intermixture of castes, the age-long caste traditions and family customs of the killers of kinsmen get extinct. Krishna, we hear that men who have lost their family traditions dwell in hell for an indefinite period of time. Oh, what a pity! Though possessed of intelligence, we have set our mind on the commission of a great sin, that due to lust for throne and enjoyment, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. It would be better for me if the sons of Dhritarashtra, armed with weapons, kill me in battle while I am unarmed and unresisting. Sanjaya said, Arjuna, whose mind was agitated by grief on the battlefield, having spoken thus, and having cast aside his bow and arrows, sank into the hinder part of the chariot. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna ends the first chapter entitled The Yoga of Dejection of Arjuna, namely Arjuna Vishaadha Yoga. The glories of chapter 1 of the Bhagavat Gita from Padma Puranam. Goddess Parvati said to Lord Shiva, My dear husband, you know all the transcendental truths, and by your mercy, I have heard the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. O Lord, now I long to hear from you the glories of the Srimad Bhagavat Gita, which was spoken by Lord Krishna, and by hearing which one's devotion to Lord Krishna increases. Lord Shiva replied, that person whose body is the color of a dark rain cloud, whose carrier is the king of birds Garuda, and who is lying on Ananta Shesha, the 1,000-headed serpent, that Lord Vishnu, whose glories have no limit, I am always worshipping. My dear Parvati, once after Lord Vishnu had killed the demon Mura, he was resting peacefully on Anantasesha when the bestower of all good fortune of the universe, Sri Lakshmi, respectfully inquired from him, O Lord, you are the controller and maintainer of the whole universe, but yet you are sleeping unhappily on this ocean of milk. What is the reason? Lord Vishnu said, my dear Lakshmi, I am not sleeping, but I am watching how wonderfully my energy is working. It is by this wonderful energy of mine by which I am controlling all things and yet remain separate. And it is by remembering these divine activities of mine that the great devotees and yogis manage to free themselves from the wheel of birth and death and attain that transcendental nature of mind, which is eternal and free from all qualities. Lakshmi said, O controller of all things, you are the goal of the meditation of great yogis. Nothing can go on without you, and yet you are separate. You are the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of all the material universes. Kindly inform me about the workings of your wonderful energies, which are so attractive that even you are lying here meditating upon them. Lord Vishnu said, my dear Lakshmi, the workings of my multifold energies and how to become free from the bonds of birth and death and attain my eternal nature can only be understood by one of pure intelligence who has an inclination to render service unto me. This transcendental knowledge is fully explained in Srimad Bhagavat Gita. Lakshmi inquired, my dear Lord, if you yourself are amazed by the workings of your energies and are ever trying to fathom their limit, then how is it possible that the Bhagavad Gita can describe those unlimited energies of yours and how to cross over them and attain the transcendental nature? Lord Vishnu said, I myself have manifested in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Please understand that the first 5 chapters are my 5 heads. The next 10 chapters are my 10 arms. And the 16th chapter is my stomach. The last 2 chapters are my lotus feet. In this way, you should understand the transcendental deity of the Bhagavad Gita. This Bhagavad Gita is the destroyer of all sins. And that intelligent man who daily recites 1 chapter or even 1 sloka, 1/2 sloka, or at least 1/4 sloka will attain the same position as Susharma had attained. Lakshmi inquired, who was Susharma? What class did he belong to and what destination did he attain? Lord Vishnu said, "My dear Lakshmi, Susharma was a very wicked and a most sinful man. Although he was born in a Brahmana family, his family had no Vedic knowledge and he only took pleasure from hurting others. He never engaged in chanting of my names, in giving charity, or receiving guests. In fact, he never performed any pious activities. For his livelihood, he collected leaves and sold them in the bazaar. He especially enjoyed drinking wine and eating flesh. In this way, he passed his life. One day, that foolish Susharma had gone to the garden of one sage for collecting leaves, when a snake came and bit him, and he died. After his death, he was cast into many hells, where he suffered for a long time, after which he attained the body of a bull. That bull was purchased by a crippled man, who engaged him in his service. For about 7 or 8 years, he was carrying extremely heavy loads. One day, that crippled man had piled a very heavy load on the back of his bull. Very quickly, he was forcing that bull along when suddenly the bull fell over and became unconscious. Many people gathered there to see what was happening, feeling sorry for that bull. One pious man bestowed upon that bull the results of some of his pious activities. Seeing that, other persons standing there started remembering their pious activities and offered the results of some of those activities to that bull. In that crowd, there was also one prostitute who did not know if she had ever performed any pious activities. But seeing everyone else offering their pious credits to that bull, she also offered the results of any pious activities she might have performed. After that, the bull died and was taken to the abode of Yamaraja, the god of death. There, Yamaraja informed him, "You are now free from the reactions of all your previous sinful deeds due to the pious credits given to you by that prostitute." Then he took birth in a very high Brahmana family. In that family, he was able to remember his past lives. After many days, he decided to search out that prostitute who had been the cause of freeing him from his hellish situation. After he had found and introduced himself to that lady, he inquired from her, "What were the pious activities performed by you, the fruits of which freed me from my hellish situation?" The prostitute replied to him, "My dear sir, in that cage is one parrot which recites something every day. Hearing that recitation, my heart has become completely pure. The results of hearing that recitation I had given to you." Thereafter, they both inquired from that parrot about that recitation. That parrot, remembering his previous life, started to narrate his history. "Previously, I had been a very learned Brahmana, but due to my pride, I used to insult other learned persons. I was also extremely jealous. After I died, I was cast into many hells, and after a long time of suffering, I achieved this body of a parrot. Due to my past sinful activities, my mother and father died while I was a baby. One day, while I was lying on the hot sands with no protection, some rishis saw me and took me to their ashram and put me in a cage. At the same place, the children of those rishis were learning the recitation of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavat Gita. Hearing them repeat those slokas, I also started repeating those slokas along with them. Shortly after, one thief stole me from that place and sold me to this pious lady. Lord Vishnu continued, by reciting the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that parrot had become completely pure. And by hearing that recitation, that prostitute also became completely pure. And by receiving some of the pious results of hearing that recitation, Susharma also had become completely pure. After discussing for some time the glories of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Susharma returned to his home, and the three of them individually engaged in reciting the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and very quickly attained the supreme destination, namely Vaikunta. Anyone who recites, who hears, or studies the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita will very easily cross over the ocean of material miseries and attain the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. This completes the Mahatmyam of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, first chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sarvam Sri Krishnarpanamastu. Sri Krishna 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 Krishna.